Magic button.
Okay, so we've got David Gerard here, and he creates Pivot to AI with his accomplice Amy Castor.
Yep. Amy Costa
Um,
stopped a while ago, but she occasionally swings back, like she did this week for the which story was it? The book story, the book mangling story.
yes, yeah, and
Because there's no other use for old books except economic. That's
uh,
just market realities, Kim. You've got to understand these
yeah,
things.
yeah,
It's just the way the world is. It's
that
history has ended, and that's how it is.
that's one of the most horrifying bits of news that you reported this week, is that they are trying to buy as many old books as they can, and then I guess they use OCR or something to process it into digital text, and then they physically destroy the book. I've
Yeah,
got something to say about that. So, my
I'm
late,
pleased to say a lot of antiquarian bookstores have worked out what these persons are up to, these scoundrels, and they're refusing to sell them the books because it turns out no one becomes an antiquarian bookseller because they're in it for the money. They're in
ooh,
it
yeah,
because they love
exactly.
books. So they're saying, actually, no, I don't want you to take the entire history of New Zealand, send it off to Anthropic, and digest it into slop. Actually, so that's good to hear.
Good, 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 good. There should be a coordination effort amongst librarians around the world to prevent this kind of shit as well.
The booksellers all talk to each other because so I mean, it's not absolute. They're still sell. Some of them just sell the books because they do in fact have to eat, but it's a tricky one. But yeah, many are going. Forget these guys. Anyway,
So, what I have to say about that is my late father was a novelist, but he was also on the board of the library of the city that we were from, which was just adjacent to Toronto. And when I was a kid, I would tag along with him a lot on his errands that he would do for the Mississauga Library. That's what it was called. And he hated it when the library people working for the library decided to throw out the occasional old book. It broke his heart. It was devastating to him. He
yeah,
on the library board made the decision once, and he influenced everyone on the board to agree with it. They were originally opposed to having book sales for the books that they want to remove from the system because they didn't have the resources to staff a used book sale in the Mississauga public libraries. And then my dad said, "Hey, if people steal the books instead of physically destroying them, people stealing the books is a preferable outcome. So
that's
it's
that's
okay
very good.
if our used book sales don't always have someone watching them and being cashier and whatnot, because even if people steal them, that's better than physically destroying the books, right? So
It
my
does depend
dad,
on yeah,
my
it does
he
depend on the book because like I recently found our old collection of Harry Potter books and they have been brought to a much better existence by being recycled.
yeah,
I don't believe the world needs yet more copies of those preserved. I'm sure there will be plenty available. They'll be found in a million years. They'll be found at the bottom of a cave somewhere.
yeah, J.K. Rowling. Wow, what a horrifying individual that is. Um,
Amazing.
so yeah. So my dad died in 2013, but I'm pretty sure that if he was still alive, he would be absolutely horrified. If there's any one thing that would turn him against Gen AI, it would be knowing that
We
more
can
than anything.
send him out to haunt them.
Yeah, yeah. Let's hope that his demon spirit in hell haunts whoever's doing that. Um, So yeah, and then also other people I know are also really horrified by it, who are interested in history and anthropology and whatnot. And I'm horrified by it too because I really treasure my physical books, and I inherited a lot of really neat old books from my dad, so I really treasure that sort of thing. And it is like it's a shame what happened to the Library of Alexandria and whatnot, but it is so important in the preservation of knowledge to keep old books.
Yeah,
So
we should
yeah,
get started. I think
yeah,
we're all here.
I think yeah. So the bit of good news is that Debian today voted to ban LLM code, swap code.
They've started the vote as of yesterday. It hasn't gone through, and there's a counter proposition that's the opposite. But we that is a we that's a vote by the Debian developers, the people who package software for Debian. So we will see how it goes. I'm sure the discussion will be full of nerds shouting at each other, as every little and large thing in Debian is. But I'm sure it'll be fun.
So the
And
people on
let's see.
Mastodon who are celebrating this now are a bit premature.
A bit premature. It's only just literally they only put it up yesterday. The question. There will be a discussion and then there will be a vote, and the discussion will be extensive.
Okay, okay. Well, let's
Much
cross
like
our
the code
fingers
blue one.
then. So Debian is one for anyone who here doesn't know. Debian is one of the most common Linux distros, which Linux isn't one operating system. Linux is literally like hundreds or probably even over 1,000 operating systems that all have the same kernel. And there's a vanilla Debian, which I believe is what you use, and there are also many, many, many different Linux distros that are based on Debian, such as the very well-known Ubuntu. And then there are many other Linux distros which are forks of Ubuntu that are based on Ubuntu. So based on
Mm.
Ubuntu, and then that would be based on Debian, right? So it's like a chain of different distros to be based on. There are some interesting distros out there, such as Elementary OS. I think Elementary OS is based on Debian directly and not based on Ubuntu and Debian. I'll
Mm.
double check that. I'd like some of these distros that are based on Ubuntu that understand how horrifying it would be to permit slop code and also Gen AI related agentic features and crap like that. I hope some of them make the transition to, instead of being based on Ubuntu, being based on Debian directly if Debian votes to do this, to
Yeah.
ban swap code. So I'm really hoping. I switched my laptop's operating system recently to Red Core Linux, which is based on Gentoo, which Gentoo is one of the oldest Linux distros. And Gentoo is a very strong anti-Gen AI policy. So I'm really, the only thing is, I, the past 15 years, I've only used Debian-based Linux distros. So now I go to the command line and I type sudo apt-get update, and it's like, huh? Doesn't work? Oh, it's a Debian related command. Oh, I used Gentoo 20 years ago. Yes, yes, yeah. I think Gen 2 is pretty safe. We gotta now really hope that Linus Torvalds, being an idiot tech bro,
The social
doesn't
injustice warrior.
doesn't result in further tainting the Linux kernel.
Mm. Cool.
That's what we
So
gotta hope for. So yeah, this is what this is all about, recovering after Gen AI, and I do believe that what we were talking about isn't a tangent; it's relevant. But we
yeah,
can talk about this more directly. What you bring to the table, David, is you have considered all kinds of data and you've come to the conclusion that the financial bubble behind Gen AI may very likely pop by 2027. Would you like to talk about that?
sure. I mean, these people are spending more money than exists. They've got more debts than they can possibly service. There cannot possibly be as many people in the world buying an AI subscription as they need to pay the debts for all the data centers they've promised to build and all the NVIDIA compute rigs they promised to buy and all the electricity to power those, none of the numbers add up. There's a weird, the whole thing about the Gen AI bubble. Now, this is, I want to say, I believe nothing about this is to do with the technology itself. Because in principle, there shouldn't be a problem with like taking a transformer model, turning it backwards and using it to pump out words. That is basically a research project or a toy. And then if you try to use it as the basis for the entirety of the economics of civilization, you're going to end up with something really, really stupid, sort of like we have now. I believe that the whole thing is a venture capital bubble party. That's why this exists. That's why we're here talking about it. And the technology is just an excuse. It could have been anything. They tried with cryptocurrency. They're now trying with quantum computing, which at least is real, but doesn't actually exist as a technology at all yet. They're trying with humanoid robots, which they're probably going to stop calling AI at some point, because when that brand name has been tarnished, and they're trying. They've got one trick, which is take some magic beans technology, claim that it will change the world and save the future, and it'll be a $10 trillion industry next week, and then run a huge economic bubble. The way that the AI bubble works is OpenAI's big pitch, Sam Altman, to his very good friends in venture capital, who he'd worked with for 10 years, was, we can build this thing that will promise to replace employees, and here's the magic bit, it uses more electricity than any competitor can manage. So we are bigger than anyone. You have to be gigantic to compete, and that's how we'll win. That was his pitch, I think. And everyone understood that was the pitch. We saw that in as early as January 2025, when DeepSeek came along and went, hey, we've got a new model. It costs so little to train. And that like cut out OpenAI's value proposition, because suddenly they weren't, mere gigantism wasn't sufficient. And but I think DeepSeek really competed on undercutting them on API prices, like to do the AI compute. So gigantism is the method. That's why they keep building more data centers. We're at the stage where building a data centers, they treat that as an end in itself. We're already there, where XAI's data centers, Colossus 1 and Colossus 2, don't have enough use from the Grok AI, because nobody uses Grok because it sucks. Even AI bros think Grok sucks. And in the S1 for SpaceX, they didn't actually break out Grok users as a separate number. They counted all Twitter users as Grok users. That was the only count of Grok users in the whole thing. I think that means nobody's using Grok, approximately nobody. So they rented out capacity to Anthropic and to Google for Gemini. So, you know, Google and Gemini and Claude users, you're doing your bit to keep those poor kids in South Memphis choking on nitrous oxide fumes. Mm-hmm. Good work. But so they're already building data centers faster than they have room to, they have actual interested customers who want to use that much AI computing. And then they're buying NVIDIA rigs that they don't have data centers to put them in. I had someone say, hey, when they work out they aren't even running these rigs, everything will change. I went, yeah, that was last November. Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, admitted they had rigs piled up and they didn't have anywhere to plug them in. And I'm like, what? Why are you doing it? And meanwhile, NVIDIA is racking up larger and larger and larger and larger quarterly revenue. And what for? And it's all really, really stupid. And a lot of it is imaginary numbers of book value of assets, where you get equity of a private company, you value it at some implausible number, then you put a dollar sign in front of that number and say, we've got an asset that big, and then you borrow against it. Like one simple example, and this is repeated across, my favorite, is SoftBank in one of the OpenAI funding rounds. They put $21 billion of actual money that existed into OpenAI, and they got back $43 billion, allegedly, of OpenAI book value. Just imaginary value of OpenAI equity. And they put that on their books and said, we've got a $43 billion asset. And SoftBank shareholders loved this, and the stock went up. Repeat that 100 times, and you've got how the AI bubble works. They're kiting checks to each other. It's a vast multiplayer Enron. And they recently got into the other Enron trick, which was off the books vehicles to hold the debt, so they don't have to say on their own books that they owe tens or hundreds of billions of dollars. It's another company entirely. They're technically liable eventually, but they don't have to write it down. But so you might think that this is all setting up a house of cards built of smaller houses of cards. That's because it is, and it's got to fall over. Things that can't go on stop. And at some point, all of this is going to fall down. The NASDAQ will be toast. Everyone who's in hock to these people, which is a lot of banks, a lot of private equity, a lot of pension funds, is in serious trouble as they discover that actually that billions of alleged dollars of their assets were actually magic beans or fairy gold, and they evaporated like the morning dew. And a lot of people will be very upset about this. But at least we won't have OpenAI to worry about anymore. That's my doom hypothesis for the economy as we head for Great Depression 2. I'd love to be wrong about that bit, but I suspect I'm not.
Yeah. So that is the financial end, which is absolutely ridiculous. I think of the bubble as the way that you and other people reporting it describe it, like Anthropic and OpenAI and Microsoft and CoreWeave and NVIDIA and whatnot, tossing between themselves the same several billion dollars.
Yep.
And it's
There's a lot of circular checks.
The amount of money that is coming from consumers into that is like trivial, like tiny fraction of, minuscule fraction of 1% relative to the massive expense of all this.
Yeah, the big money is in stealing a pension fund, because there's something like $14 trillion in US pension funds. Now that's money that's too big a pot of money for a scammer to pass up. So they're doing that. Every financial firm in the US wants that money. Some of them have some of it. Others are trying really hard, and selling some investment grade fairy gold works as well now as it did in 2006 when they were selling nonsense backed mortgages and so on.
Yeah, and then so many of us poor people suffered as a consequence of that a couple of years later.
Yeah, but they were the poor, they were the plebs. They don't matter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's absolutely horrifying. That's the financial end. There's also other things that mark Gen AI being something that is going to end imminently, which is I have read research that people at MIT, people working for the UN, and people working for Harvard Science Review have done. And the head researcher who did the work for Harvard Science Review, looking at other research that other people have done, I guess a meta-analysis is what they call it. The way he describes it is like the data centers that these billionaire oligarchs demand are not, they're unsustainable according to the laws of physics. Like
They are.
you cannot beat the laws of physics.
You can promise you will in 6 months, though. That's fine. That's a forward-looking statement.
Yeah.
You can make all the forward-looking statements you want, as long as you say that's a forward-looking statement. In the future, we hope to unleash our herd of magical flying unicorn ponies. They will definitely put rainbows across the horizon, or at least in our projections, they will. Here's the
That
spreadsheet.
is so horrifying that, most of the people that I knew as my cybersecurity research writing career got better and better. Most of the people that I knew in that industry totally are brainwashed by this shit. Like it creeps me out so much. I'm in the first Tribe of Hackers book. That's my claim to fame. And most of the people in that book with me, I would not want to stand anywhere near these days. Like,
Who goes slop?
yeah, it's so horrifying. I entered this industry thinking that all these people were such brilliant experts and whatnot, and I felt imposter syndrome. And now I don't feel any sort of imposter syndrome about any of this anymore because it's absolutely horrifying. I worked for a client last year who was psychologically torturing me because every third sentence out of his mouth was, stick that in your AI, go stick that in your AI, go stick that in your AI. And if I was physically there, I would probably be assaulting him very brutally. Stick that in your AI. Like, fuck you, you shithead. That's Secure Nation, by the way. Boycott them.
You would
But
proceed to stick it in his AI,
yeah,
in his AI logo. Anyway,
yeah. Like he was psychologically torturing me like that. And then the other people who were working for Secure Nation, they wanted me to join them in doing an intervention to convince them to not rely on Gen AI so much. But then the people whose idea the intervention was still thought that Gen AI was good for some things. It was just the boss was a little overboard about it. I do you remember that wonderful blog that Anthony Moser wrote last year? Like,
yes, I am an AI hater.
yes, that is beautiful. And I was so inspired by it that I interviewed him for my anti-Gen AI series, anti-Gen AI Heroes interview series. And that is the sort of voice that we so desperately need because the majority of the criticism of Gen AI that I hear is okay, well, here's the little bit of nuance that we're slipping in. There's this one specific use case that I find it very usable for, or oh, it's not good now, but in the future, it could be better. And
Yeah,
like I have literal PTSD related to Gen AI.
yeah,
And when these assholes have wishy-washy positions on Gen AI like that, it is literally a trauma trigger for me.
hmm. It's I mean, the nuanced position is I have observed this in detail, considered it, thought about it a lot, and I think it sucks.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's not just it's not just X, it's Y. It's not just terrible, it's terrible in detail. M dash. So it's the nuanced position is to despise it, but know why it's despicable.
Yeah, they seem to think nuance means you got to have things to put in the pros and cons
No,
columns.
nuance means give in. Nuance means shut up and stop contradicting me. But
Exactly.
AI is here to stay, you know, Kim. AI is here to stay.
Ah, so horrifying. Because I literally visualize the environmental destruction with every single prompt. So I'm like viscerally, I have a visceral reaction when I see anything that looks like slop. Like I literally have psychological trauma over this. So
Every time you hit enter on Claude or Gemini, think about think of it as sending out a little puff of brown nitrous smoke across South Memphis that some kid is going to choke on.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because it does exactly that.
Yes. So for anyone to think, oh, these are some limited use cases that could be really good.
Yeah, it's I think one which there are, I could contrive use cases, or I could not do that. But it does help, I think, to listen to what people are saying when they advance a use case and assume they're not lying. But sometimes they're not lying. Like the disability use case, it's a tricky one because here we have AI literally causing a disability. It's giving kids asthma, and we've got
Yeah.
numbers on
Yeah.
that. You know, but on the other hand, like Meta's creep glasses, they do in fact work as aids for the visually impaired, where you have an image, you use it as an image classifier, and it describes the scene to you. That is objectively a useful use case. It's just a horrible, terrible engine behind it. And I'm sure there should be a version that doesn't involve renting your eyeballs from Meta on a short-term lease. Perhaps there should be possible to fit something that can run a local model into glasses, or maybe glasses with a box attached or something like that, that runs just a small classifier locally or something. But one thing that really annoys me unduly is that you have jobs that can be done by a tiny local model that doesn't use a lot of resources and is well understood and is like normal machine learning stuff that works. Is they have a little job and they give it to the huge um, awfulness machine, and they use that and it does a worse job.
Yeah.
Translation's a good example. I
Yeah.
mean, they literally the transformer model in machine learning was invented to do translation, and eventually they turned Google Translate into it, and suddenly translation got noticeably better. But now it's gotten worse because what they did was they swapped out the specialized little model that does this one job for Gemini, and that means that it gives translations that are much smoother, and they sound much better, more confident translations. And they're also wrong a lot more. Like machine learning is bad and it's unreliable and you should never trust it for real things. But they make one that sounds really trustworthy and wrong. It'll do things like if you use a rare word, it'll translate it to a common word that's wrong.
Yeah.
And other uses, like I do know people who use the chatbot to smooth out their English because they're in an environment where having anything resembling non-standard English is heavily discriminated against. Academia is really bad for this. And
Mhm.
the actual problem there is that this is basically racism. But
Yeah.
I can, I can I don't like it. I can understand them saying, I've got this solution, and it doesn't actually improve their English. It doesn't at
No.
all. It's the opposite of improving your English. But I can see why they feel driven to that. You know, it's there's real things happening that, yeah, it's not great. And there's obvious ones like when people are forced to use it at work or they don't eat.
I
Um,
that's
yeah,
that's a situation where I give people a pass, obviously.
Yeah, and they can comfort themselves knowing that it's all going to fall over in a year, and if the company doesn't go broke,
Yeah.
then yeah, and it's. I mean, I think the good news is this must end by next year. I think, um, but yeah, it's like what in the meantime, it's terrible, doing damage, and I don't think that's a reason to stop or slow down hating on it in the slightest, actually.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so horrifying to watch. And I make that exception for like employees and independent contractors who are at risk of losing their survival income. if they don't comply in using Gen AI. And unfortunately, that's a very common situation. So I give those people a pass. Who I don't give a pass are consultants who, if their clients say, help us improve our visibility in ChatGPT, say, yes, I'll help you with that.
We can spam Reddit. No, wait. That's
Yeah,
actually how you,
he
that's the only
basically
method
said,
I've heard of that actually works to try to get your stuff into the chatbot.
yeah,
You,
because that's Reddit. Yeah, that's
because
Reddit's non-publication model.
they
Yeah,
suck in Reddit because they presume it's humans. And so you have entire fake spam subreddits. And this was busted open by Housefresh, which is a website for reviewing air filters, just household appliances. And they found that basically companies get their stuff into the AI overview because it just swallows Reddit. So there's whole fake subreddits that are literally just bots.
yeah.
And what? And this is how you do business now. It's how you do AI engine optimization. Um, I mean, I've been in IT for quite a while, and for the last 20 years, SEO is one of those occupations that needs to die in a fire. But
Yeah.
there's a hypothetical good version, and one day I might even meet it. So, yeah, I'm not a fan of the field. And I must admit, I will confess that I giggled slightly when I saw the SEOs posting on their forums. But what do we do now?
Yeah.
Perish?
Yeah.
You know?
All because Google search isn't Google search anymore. Yeah. And yeah, like that is not acceptable. You can't say that you are anti-Gen AI and then you go and do that. Consultants, being a consultant is not the same thing as being an employee or a contractor.
Mm.
I've been a consultant. I've tried to consult small businesses to migrate off of Microsoft's ecosystem to no avail. But in the consultant role, there's no way that you could get me to give people advice that I know is bad. That would make me a bad consultant. Like it would be
Mm.
like a lawyer who you think of a lawyer as a legal consultant. It's like a lawyer, a client says to a lawyer, I want you to do this contract in ChatGPT, and you say yes and you go along with it.
Yeah, it's a tricky one.
Like
There's yeah.
Like when you're in the consultant role, it's not the same thing as being an employee or a contractor. So
And what I wonder, I'm getting more and more. We floated this idea ourselves of doing a consultancy to do AI cleanup, and since then, I've been hearing from people who are starting to consult on this. So and I think there's going to be a lot of work for all of us.
I
you know,
was like, I want to join that business, by the way. I have my own ideas for it.
yeah, I know that I could just say on Mastodon, now in need of consultants to do AI slop cleanup, and I'd immediately get 100 of the most qualified people I've known personally for a couple of decades, and they'd be all going, "Yep, we're in." So I think our entire problem at the moment is trying to work out how to get our asses together, really. So we'll see what happens. I promise nothing. I promise absolutely nothing to anyone on this, but I do know that it's a thing that people are starting to offer as a service.
All the gifts I would bring to the table are I passed the CISSP exam. I understand data privacy policy compliance really, really well. I've written a lot about that stuff, not just the GDPR, but many other data privacy policies as well. Um,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
But
So there's,
yeah, I mean, basically, as in any sort of business like that, 100% of your problems are sales and marketing. Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, we have no shortage of brilliant people who could do the job standing on their heads. The trouble is that we have to get the place for them to stand on their head. That's the rare
that's,
bit.
that's definitely something we can discuss later. But yeah, so there's that. There's going to be massive environmental destruction. while there is
Yes.
lack of environmental destruction and it's worsening, and we see the effects of it every day now. And we see people in Western Europe enduring heat that they're not used to enduring. We see floods in Malta. My mom's side of the family is from Malta, and I can tell you, Malta normally gets very, very, very little precipitation each year. Maybe
Hmm.
a couple of very light precipitation days during the winter, and that's it. So for there to be floods in Malta, that is a very dystopian sort of thing to be happening.
One important thing is that the Trump administration, in concert with the AI bros, it's really given them license to say environmental issues. Well, we don't give a hoot about that. Our AI will solve the problem in the fabulous future if you just give us more money. So, and they never cared. They had to be drag kicking and screaming to it. And I'm sure we can take a nuanced, balanced approach. We can sharpen the guillotines.
Yeah,
But
I'm a big fan of the guillotines.
Or the moderate approach would be just tax them till the pips rattle. That would be the fluffy, well-meaning liberal approach. Don't actively shoot them, that sort of thing. I certainly wouldn't want unpleasantness or violence. Not violence to rich people. That's violence. Violence to poor people is just social realities of the market, and it can't be helped. But violence to rich people, we don't want any of that. That would be unpleasant.
Exactly. And then my other big concern is there have been possibly millions of people who have delegated their thinking to Gen AI, and there are, at least probably hundreds of thousands of people who think that the Gen AI is sentient and they think they have relationships with it.
I
When
know
all
people who've gone through AI, what I can only call AI psychosis. That's not a
yeah,
diagnosis. That's just people who just fall into an AI hole, and I don't know what to do.
when this all crashes down, not only like obviously the slop is feeding them bullshit, right? But if they've delegated so much of their thinking to the bots, and then all of a sudden the bots aren't available to them anymore, which is something that we anticipate happening really soon,
Yeah,
they're going to have nervous breakdowns, I think. They're going to have like massive cognitive, psychological crises of like, oh my God, my brain is gone.
yeah. It's going to be like suddenly having a sudden disability strike you.
Yeah.
It's going to be awful. It's going to be. This is going to be extremely bad, and all the companies and who did this will be broke, and so they won't be suable entities. It'll be a really bad time. Um, the I don't know what to do about that. Have you actually you've got them on your list of people to speak to. Have you had any? Have you spoken to any as yet?
I had been interviewing one psychologist. I prefer to interview over email. And what happens is it's a long, slow process that I'm doing these interviews. So I'll email them a question. And then when they email back an answer, I'll email back another question and so on and so forth. I would love to be connected to additional psychologists to interview about this. And I would like to be connected to engineers and sociologists and people in other various related disciplines about this. And I'm still in the process of finding more and more interview subjects. So all the work that I've done
We'll
on the
take
book,
this general call.
all the work I've done on the book so far has been just compiling research sources. Some of them are human beings, some of them are web pages and web resources that I've archived, and some of them are things that I find at the library. But I would say probably about half of my research generally tends to be from the web. But yeah. So if anyone knows any more subject matter experts in various fields, engineers, technicians, psychologists, sociologists, environmentalists. Jerry McGovern said he's going to introduce me to a couple of environmentalists who I can interview about this and whatnot, because the disaster of Gen AI is multifaceted,
Oh yeah.
and I want to get the insights from people in a wide variety of fields that this is impacting. So if anyone knows anyone who would be a good interview subject, please email. I'll put my email in the chat. I'll put my email address in the chat right now. So if anyone, or if you personally are someone who would be a good interview subject, that counts too. Or if you know someone, just email me about it, and that would be great because I'm in the preliminary research part of the book process right now for recovering after Gen AI. So yeah, so that's I. It's going to be so horrible. There's going to be there's probably going to be damage to the power grid. I imagine because of how horrifying the electrical load is for all these super wasteful data centers.
Wonder if they'll actually like just switch them off, because it's a really tricky one, because the latest NVIDIA rigs basically need custom built data centers to be custom fitted out for them. They're not just standard rack sizes. They're not like a warehouse full of racks with a lot of power going into them like we're used to seeing, where they are specialist things that are sort of a machine hell with screaming fans and a lot of heat going through. Um, so I wonder how useful those data centers will be. There's only so many spaces the laser tag economy can
Yeah, that's another massive
engage with,
problem. That's another
but
massive problem. Yeah, all
I
the
cannot believe
abandoned.
they'll. Yeah, I can't believe they'll abandon North Virginia, the North Virginia data center alley. They're going to keep using that because it's the best connected piece of real estate in the world. And there's a reason all the data centers have always been there, and it's called the CAA. But they will actually, they'll keep that going for sheer commercial connectivity reasons. The rise and rise of US East 1. So I don't expect those will shut down. I expect others will. Stargate Abilene has no reason to exist.
Yeah,
It's really stupidly placed. It's like, where is it built? It was in Amarillo, I think. And it's like, there's nothing in Amarillo. It's in a desert. Why would you put a water sucking data center in the desert? Because you're Oracle. It's and there is stuff in Amarillo. There's a bunch of military bases and areas there. But this is like, can they sell it to the government? Maybe this administration. It's a tricky one. But
then,
there's going to be a lot of like useless data centers left lying around, and they won't be able to be converted into apartments. No.
no. And then another big problem is we have Gen Z or Gen Z in American English. Most people of that generation are finding it very difficult to nearly impossible to enter the job market. And it's
Mm.
not just, I can't get a job that is pertinent to my degree. It's, I can't get a job at McDonald's.
Yep.
And all these millions and millions upon millions of Gen Z, Gen Zers who cannot enter the job market, that is going to have really catastrophic consequences very soon.
Yeah, basically, it turns out if you decide that the machines will replace all the employees, I mean, the economy is actually screwed, and we're actually in a recession already.
Yeah,
Except if you're the stock market and you can make the numbers look good on paper,
yeah.
but we know the economic activity is slowing down. So we have numbers for that too, but they don't talk about those numbers. So it's a tricky one. And like,
So not only do we have a generation that are largely desperately poor, but also as senior people in various industries retire or die, there's not going to be juniors to replace them. You need to hire and train juniors in order for seniors to be created.
Look,
That's going
business
to be,
has to actually like train people.
yeah. So that's
Business
going to,
business can't compete if it has to spend time thinking of new excuses.
yeah. So that's going to have massive impacts on everything, like a lack of like fresh blood in a wide assortment of industries to replace the people who are dying and retiring. Uh,
So yeah, it's this is a problem the companies are talking through. They're having to finally reach the stage of admitting they have to train people, and they really, really hate that. They hate it so much. They have to do things.
yeah,
But those
you got
employees,
to make
those
your
employees won't be
training.
loyal to them because they're not loyal to the employees.
Yeah.
They broke the social contract, then they're surprised that people take them at their word.
Yeah, it's so like there's so many it's destroying academia. I I'm I had to quit being a professor at the Open Institute of Technology because as of the semester beginning September 2025, they're going to force all faculty members there to process all student essays and other similar work through Turnitin, which I believe now is probably powered by Gen AI, in order to detect if the students are using Gen AI. And the whole concept of that horrified me so much that I quit. And then they removed all signs of my existence from their website. But I have digital and like printed evidence that I was a professor there. But I tried to get media attention as a whistleblower about that, about what's happening to academia. Not that OPIT is a prestigious institution. In fact, they're very low on the prestige scale, but then schools that are very high on the prestige scale, like Oxford, are also doing this sort of shit.
Yeah,
And
I
like,
did a seminar the other last week with not earlier this week, sorry, with a bunch of physics teachers and high school and university, um, and we had one speaker was a recent undergraduate who's now a grad student, and she spoke at length about how they'd had this complete slop forced on them for the last year or two of her degree, and this was a person who was absolutely disgusted and sick of this slop and trash being forced on them. And they did what they could to actually learn anything, but it was an uphill slog against literally their own administration, you know, where they say, "Welcome to the gymnasium. We are the university. We will make your brain swole. You'll get gains. Here's the forklift that lifts weights for you." And it's, what? It's so I think on balance the kids are all right. They understand that this is all a con, that they're getting swindled. What they do about it is a good question, but they've got the correct, they're not fooled by the chatbot. I'm sure a lot of them are. Like when I was a kid, I was a terrible student. I was I was bright academically, so I skated by, but if I'd had a homework machine when I was 16, I'd have probably tried to use it, and I would have learnt nothing. And
yeah,
it, it's I would have done the stupid homework with the stupid machine. But you get some really obvious fraud. Like in the UK, they're literally talking about AI curricula and AI homework marking. And then, like, do they expect the kids not to be completely alienated by that? Like, is a human involved? No. Is the kid supposed to actually put in effort themselves? Apparently, and not just send these slot machines dictates to the slot machine to feed something to the slot machine. It's it's a completely stupid plan on multiple levels.
like they're
Thankfully,
destroying themselves. Like, what was the credibility of a degree under those conditions? Absolutely none. It's worth less than the little comic that comes in the bubblegum wrapper, basically, your PhD under those circumstances.
hmm,
So
it's a bit of a problem. But on the other hand, you get some students who just cheat their way through their entire degree because they just haven't got the time, and because the university's pressuring them to use the slot machine anyway, and so they turn in chatbot code and chatbot writing, and yeah, it's terrible. It's very dumb.
And
It's
no one gave an F when, oh, I can say fuck, can't I? No one gave a fuck when when that happened to me, when I quit because I couldn't stand, I was horrified, viscerally horrified at the prospect of all that. Of I'm gonna I'm being forced to use Gen AI to detect if my students are using Gen AI. Like I, and I'm horrified when I hear about professors embracing it and professors using it to write their emails for them. And I wrote a blog for the Stop Gen AI's website a few months ago about how when I was a 10-year-old in public school and my teacher, Mr. Van, convinced me that I was horribly lazy because I was struggling with long division. So I hear that, and now I hear, and then all the time when I was in public school as a child, I was told, wait till you get into high school, wait till you go to college/university, wait till you enter the workforce as an adult. It's going to be so much more challenging. None of this lazy stuff that you do, Kim, is going to fly once you're a grown up and there are real hardcore responsibilities and expectations placed upon you and all that. And then I go through all that and I feel like shit about myself as a kid because of that. And then as an adult, I find out that no, professors are using the slot bot to write their emails for them.
Well, Kim, when you were 10, you should have been using the slot bot. Why weren't you using the slot bot? You didn't get with the program. You got in early and you were left behind.
Uh, yeah. Well, I mean, I'm probably better off having been a kid in the 90s than being a kid these days. Being a kid these days seems horrifying. Like the whole, Gen AI is introduced to very young children, toddlers, by sticking an iPad in their playpen or whatever. I mean, that just horrifies me so much. So it's bad enough that adults are damaging their brains by delegating their thinking to the slot bots. What about the more impressionable children whose brains are even more malleable, who never learned in the first place how to find things in the library, how to find information from web pages, how to find information from various other sources by talking to people? No, they're being their brains are being wired with the idea of you prompt the slot bot and it gives you your answer.
Hmm. How are we doing for time? It's
We're
five.
an hour in.
Yeah. Um, do we want to ask? Do you want to do a
Yeah, we
question
can have a
session?
Q&A session. Why not?
I can't stick around forever because it's pushing 7 p.m. here, but I can put off dinner a bit later.
Oh, that's so sweet of you. Okay, we'll have a
The wife and kid are off at DinoCon this weekend, so it's just me and the cats and the rats here. So,
okay. Well, the cats will be very
and the
upset if
horses,
you
of
delay.
course.
The cats will be very upset if you delay supper. I know cats.
Oh no, they got theirs earlier. Now I
Oh,
don't exist. Now for a
oh,
few
that,
years, I don't. A few hours, I don't matter.
well, that's good. Okay, so anyone, if you have questions, just do the Zoom hands up thing.
If we can't hear you, type them in the chat, and Kim will read them.
Yeah.
Nobody? Anybody? Hello?
This is your last chance. Anyone have questions or comments? Uh, I'll I'll give you another 5 seconds.
Was that a comment? Any more on the original nominal topic of how to recover afterwards?
Oh,
So,
good question. Okay, you go ahead, David.
if I had a spare answer, I'd be giving it. I think that there will be some work in cleaning up after the mess. In my field, I worked in IT. There's going to be a lot of cleanup work for the companies that have not gone broke. a lot of them will do absolutely everything before they do the sensible thing and throw out the slop and replace it with actual coders and hire more developers again, because that involves hiring people, and hiring people is wrong, especially when you need them. You must pay 3 times as much for automation, not humans. So, but there will be sensible companies who get people. On the other hand, I think that with the economy badly affected by the crash of the whole market, and it will take out the stock market, the economy will be bad, and all jobs will have massive, massive, massive over demand, like they do now. Really, that won't improve. In more general fields, any field of knowledge, if you are capable of using your brain, there may be a place for you. And I don't mean using your brain in some advanced manner. I just mean normal people who who have realized that they shouldn't hand their brain to the robot. I expect there may be a small amount of local maintenance jobs taking care of the burning effigies constructed of garbage of Sam Altman on every street corner, but that won't employ a lot of people. In terms of recovering from the tech bros, I think that tech's image will be fatally tarnished. In electoral politics, the slightly fluffier capitalist party they could swoop in right now and just absolutely win by promising another New Deal type arrangement, and I expect they'll do anything they can not to do that. It'll be great. And hello, Nadia. We're delighted to hear that.
I gotta mention, when people like Bernie Sanders talk about how, oh well, I will make sure that every American gets $1,000 a year from the planet destroying slot bots.
It's like, Bernie, no, what are you doing? No, mate, you had a job, mate. What are you doing?
I hope people realize that politicians like him are full of shit, and they've never been leftists challenging the system. That they're full of lies, basically. And I'm not kidding about that. Like, I hope people see stuff like that and they realize that there's no such thing as a left-wing politician in the United States, for instance.
Yeah. Well, we've got an exciting new face in the UK, Andy Burnham, the nice Prime Minister who's come in to replace the boring Prime Minister. And Andy will definitely save us from nothing whatsoever, because he's got to reassure his backers that nothing has changed. So he's going full AI, because of course he is. He's created a cabinet position for a minister for AI. And it's so stupid. So yeah,
the Labour Party is very anti-Labor.
Massively.
Very strongly anti-Labor.
So yeah, what's this question? There's a lot of PR from hyperscalers about new massive data center projects. To the end, how much of them do you think will be actually finished? Very few. I would advise everyone to read Ed Zitron's lengthy posts, but they are very long. But I find his work invaluable. Ed is deeply annoying to many people, and he writes really long posts, but they're useful and informative to me in particular. I use his numbers all the time because he collects the good numbers. And he is just this week's post, he goes on in particular about how the data center explosion is just a sort of bubble mania. It's a bubble inside the bubble where people are building data centers because they're building data centers. And data centers are the hot new place to build data centers. The attraction of data centers for financiers is not that they will ever be used or whatever. It's that today you can sell debt against the value of the data centers, and you can borrow against data centers, and you can claim that number as a number you can leverage further, and you can build collateralized data center obligations and so forth. And even if it crashes tomorrow, that's tomorrow's problem. We've got to make money today. It's
That's why our society is collapsing, basically. So
it's um it's all extremely short term. I mean, it's a whole scam economy, and like Matt Binder's stopped doing his scam economy podcast, but it was a very good podcast, and I'm not just saying that because I was on it a couple of times. But basically, it's the phrase to remember: it's a scam economy where the jobs are all gambling and fraud, or gambling fraud. It's sort of bad. Like, there's a mythical world. We're in the world where a business that sells useful things that people want is now the nice alternative. You know, it's the brochure version of capitalism, and it's like, what? It's not great.
I hope
So
everyone today. Sorry, interrupting you. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, that's all. I didn't have much else to say, but I would say that the answer to the actual question, not many of them will be built because there is no demand. Nobody wants these things actually, and if they can't get customers, the projects will go broke, and everyone involved, all the bets will unwind, and everyone is screwed. And they don't want the projects. This is why I think Anthropic and Google both moved into the XAI data centers, because they knew that if XAI went down, that would be bad for them, because it would mean it would be the sound of the music stopping, and the kayfabe might be broken. Oh, oh God. Yeah, this is an absolutely key question from
Okay.
Plasma Cutter. Do you have any advice about how to deal with bosses and co-workers with severe AI psychosis in today's tech industry? So, you know the answer is get a new job. Turns out that's easy to say and hard to do,
Yeah.
because, you know, then your next boss will be a bit too enamored of his AI, totally not a girlfriend slave. So there's a lot of people who quite definitely want to make passionate love to the robot. But
Yeah.
what do you do when you have to work with them? It's really hard. Answer slop with slop, and keep your resume circulating is all I can think of. There's ways to deal with this stuff where, if you're forced at rent point to use Claude Code, uh, it can be almost impossible to deal with your co-workers, and you just want to Minecraft a lot of them. But these are the people you have to deal with, and you put on your charming face and say nice things and pretend you did the work with Claude, and make sure you're token maxing. And the new thing now is that, now that the AI vendors are feeling the crunch themselves, um, the CFOs are finally looking at the numbers and going, "How much?" And they're turning it down a bit. But so that's good. So now I'd say we still want 10 times the output from you, but you're not allowed to actually use the bot so much. Be more efficient. Try using some. I've heard of this thing called shell scripts. You can use those instead of Claude Code. Imagine that. And it's the same thing happens in non-tech jobs as well, just office jobs. You can tell which jobs are being done with Copilot and which are not, because the ones being done with Copilot are the useless jobs that nobody wants to do. The use case for AI is work that should not be done or should not have been done. So transcripts of meetings that nobody will ever read and nobody will ever listen to again, because nobody cares and nobody did care. If the meeting was important, they wouldn't trust an AI summary. They
Yeah.
would actually listen. Trusting the summary will screw you up because the AIs do not summarize, they shorten text. Gen AI LLMs do not summarize, they shorten, and that's not the same thing at all. It cuts important points because they don't understand meaning. It often reverses the meaning of a sentence because they don't understand meaning. And if you rely on this, it's going to screw you up. So I wouldn't do that. If the job is actually important, then turning in slop leads to very bad results. If your boss insists you use the slop anyway, a lot of people tend to deal with this by going stealthish. That is, they do the work properly and then they get the bot to smooth the grammar. And then they have to check slop and make sure it's not actively wrong. And but it reads like slop to the boss who cannot tell styles. So, and that's horrible, horrible work, and nobody wants to do this.
All
Um,
while more and more of the earth gets destroyed and not no longer able to be used for agriculture and human habitation and whatnot.
yes, but that's not business, Kim. So that doesn't exist. So
Ah,
yeah, with code review, basically the human in a loop plan is the blathering of idiots because no human can maintain their attention that long.
yeah.
Saying that doesn't get the thing. You're just being lazy. You could maintain attention if you tried harder. No, you can't because it's not psychologically possible. And it's very hard for a human to review more than a few hundred lines of code a day written by a human with intent. When it's a few hundred lines of Claude code output, it's not reviewable because line line 100 does not relate to line 1. They're both just statistical output. They're not actually a coherent plan with intent by something that has a concept in its head and generates the text as a human does. That's not how the chatbot works. Um, so yeah, it's I can see the thing of Toronto Will says, I'd like to think they're not beyond redemption. And I'm plugging my nose till the wind starts blowing in a different direction, hoping they snap out of it before too much longer. Yeah, I hope there'll be soft landings for some of these people. Some of them not terrible people, even if they're deeply, deeply annoying while in the throes of advanced bot decay. But one hopes they will come back when the bot goes away and they come back to themselves and wonder what they were doing for the last 2 years.
Mm.
I can hope it. I don't want to think. I hope they have an okay landing and come to their senses. That would be better for everyone. It's really hard. So no one can review that much. As I was saying, no one can review that much code. If they're giving you 1,000, 10,000 lines of AI code to review, honestly, just do what your incentives are and what your boss is telling me. You go, looks good to me, push to prod, because they will do everything to stop you doing anything else. Oh, it didn't pass tests. I guess we better add more tests. Claude, give me some more tests. Then see if there's some more wording changes you can do to your resume. I don't know. It's sort of terrible. Jobs that were good have become suck. It's awful.
So there are a few things that I would like everyone here to walk away with today. One, I would like everyone here, if anyone ever discussed Gen AI around you, as long as it doesn't threaten your employment to do so, don't talk about Gen AI as if there's some positive nuance behind it. Please, please go out there and as much as possible express a strong anti-Gen AI stance.
If you're
Understand
choosing
that,
violence, if you're choosing violence, that they say Gen AI, that's the one that makes child porn, isn't it? And makes people kill
yeah,
themselves.
yeah, exactly.
Always,
I
there's always a
believe
place.
that,
There's always a time to choose violence with these things.
yeah, I believe that the people who claim to oppose Gen AI, but then weaken their position, are weakening the opposition to Gen AI and subsequently not doing anything to help anyone who's good. So please, please,
Kim, Gen AI
yeah,
has many
ideas,
nuanced use
ideas,
cases.
ideas spread. The way you communicate ideas on social media and in conversations with people does influence people a little bit. So please go out there and have a strongly anti-Gen AI stance, please.
It helps.
Another thing,
Yeah, that's important. It helps to know all the reasons, but also what really works on people is shame and ridicule.
yeah,
That's terribly rude. That's choosing violence, but that's how they managed to get homeopathy kicked out of medicine in the UK, for example, where you had these absolute crooks just selling water with a massive markup and for actual medical conditions.
yeah,
And it's it was actually people tried the reasoned debate approach, but you need all the facts. The facts are necessary, but they're not sufficient. You also need shame and ridicule. So, I mean, maybe that's an approach that resonates with me because Pivot to I make sure I have all the facts I can, but also I absolutely ridicule these ridiculous fools who are being foolish.
yeah, exactly. Well, it's very cathartic for a lot of people. So there, another
It
thing I
is.
want everyone here to walk away with is if you have a laptop or an Android OEM phone and it is your possession and not something that your company gave you or whatever, it is possible to have a computing experience that is Gen AI free. So don't feel like you absolutely can't avoid Gen AI even outside of work. If you own a device, as long as it's not an Apple device, which in which replacing the operating system is close to impossible, uh, you can, replace Windows with certain, not all, don't just choose any Linux distro, but with certain Linux distros, certain
Mm.
Linux distros, not any Linux distro, right? You can replace vanilla Android on your Android phone with either Graphene OS if it's a Pixel, or if it's not a Pixel, there's a high probability that you can install Lineage OS on it.
If you're on straight Android 15, for example, as I am, because I have stuff I have to run, which basically I could bodge it, but I'd rather not. Just disabling the Google app gets rid of a lot of the rubbish. And then you can turn your power switch into a power switch instead of a Gemini switch.
So
Um,
it's not completely unavoidable. And then another thing I want people to walk away from this is there a light at the end of the dark, dark tunnel? Hopefully, but there's going to be a lot of darkness first. Even after Gen AI is no more, there's going to be. I'm going to get to the more of the details about it in my book, based on my research and based on the expertise that I gleaned from people. We're going to have all kinds of interesting theories and hypotheses about this.
yeah, we're
So
definitely going to emerge into a crashed economy, but at least we won't have OpenAI anymore. At least not by that name. They'll probably rebrand it, the way that Kodak and Polaroid and Napster are still circulating as brands. Um, Entry level Linux distro without AI. I appreciate that nobody wants a new hobby. Nobody wants their computer to be a hobby. They want to get work done. Um,
Red Core Linux is what I use, and I chose Red Core Linux over Vanilla Gentoo because installing Vanilla Gentoo is like installing Arch, which is it takes you multiple days and customizing configuration scripts and whatnot. Whereas even
yeah,
people like me would rather install an operating system with an installer wizard, right? So if you want Gentoo with an installer wizard that's easy for normal people to use, a Red Core Linux is one option, and then Chimera Linux is another option. So it's
yeah,
I will write the names here. So these are the two user-friendly operating systems based on Gentoo that are out there: Chimera Linux and Red Core Linux.
yeah. I would not actually recommend Debian to non-geeks. I've I just switched my laptop to Debian recently because Ubuntu went full slop with 2604. So I got a new laptop and I went, I'll start with Debian. And it's very good, but also I have to keep fixing little things and it's really annoying. And literally the purpose of Ubuntu was to be Debian without that annoyance. So I've got the annoyance back now, but I asked for this and it does do what I say. So that's nice. I believe there's a Debian edition of Mint. Yeah, that's probably that might be a good one to start with. I don't know. I haven't heard about Mint embracing AI. I hope that I won't see news going around tomorrow that they have, and we'll see. Mint is notoriously user friendly. It's a very good starter Linux. Um, if you're not sure about whether you can use Linux on your desktop, try it with a USB key and see if everything works.
They
That's
call that
they
live USB.
Yeah, they all boot from the USB, and you can try out a version before you commit to installing. If you have some software that has to use actual Windows, I would advise buying a spare box for it. I mean, laptops cost money, but about 300 currency units these days get you a good second-hand ex-corporate laptop, that sort of thing. So I think, is there anything else that we haven't
Yeah.
covered? I think we've done.
All right. Well, thank you very much, everyone. I put the link to my book Kickstarter here. That is my entire income these days because of what Gen AI did to my livelihood. Pivot to AI is David's
My entire income.
entire livelihood these days. So is it hyphens between pivot and then this is the URL, right? So pivot to AI, it's got the hyphens in it.
Yep. And there's the YouTube pivot if you like video instead of text. There's text, there's podcast, there's the YouTube, different people. There's like, it's like three disjoint groups that like the different things. Um,
Thank
so
you. I strongly recommend if you can afford to do so. I'm a YouTube channel supporter, so that means that a couple of bucks gets taken out of my account every month to support Pivot to AI through YouTube's platform. There's also his Patreon, and he's got a Ko-Fi. He's got all those links to ways to financially support him on his website, including the Redbubble merch and whatnot. So
yes,
if you
there's a
can,
Redbubble sale on this week as well, by the way. So it's time to get your pivot shirt.
yeah.
Yes. But
So
yeah, it's pretty good. And um I'm also available for email questions, and people send me stuff all the time. And I have become the complaints department for AI, but I asked for this job.
so yeah, support my Kickstarter campaign that ends on August
Support
5th.
Kim's campaign.
Because that's my entire livelihood now. I'm literally buying groceries with that money and paying rent. Support Pivot to AI as well, and yeah, because we used to have lucrative jobs in the tech industry, and that was taken from us. So
Well, it's all right because computers suck.
yeah.
They pay well.
Thank you very much, everyone, and your kind words in the chat, everyone. That does mean something to me. I really appreciate that. So, because we decided to record this, I'm going to eventually turn it into something that I'm going to upload on YouTube and PeerTube, and I'm going to share it through the Stop Gen AI website and through social media. So, thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
And you put in the swear words so you can share it, and I can't. But I,
So,
I
I don't
it
expect it's
happens.
going to be monetized on YouTube in the first place. So,
It's a hard slog, and then you get 0.1p per view, and it's
yeah.
great.
If it's only going to get like a few thousand views, that's too low for monetization anyway. So a bunch of fuck, killing,
Oh,
suicide, because it's instead of like unalive, right? So
no, I'm
I can
sorry, but this is news and current affairs, so you can talk about suicide in a proper current news and current affairs manner, which we are doing. So yeah.
Well, either
That's in
way,
the rules. News and current
the
affairs, you get away with so much,
the low level
but
of
not
users
swear
is
words.
going to get, it's not going to be monetizable in the first place.
It
So
is not.
might as well put all the advertiser unfriendly words into it too. All right. Thank you very much, everyone. And so next Saturday, we're going to have our friend Stephen Ferrugia, and he's going to be great. And he's someone else who I feel confident is not going to let me down by, oh, but there's just one thing that Gen AI is good for. Thank you very much, everyone.
I chat to Steve all the time. We bitch extensively about AI. It's one of our favorite complaining topics.
Exactly. Thank you very much, everyone. Next Saturday, Stephen Ferrugia. Thank you very much.